Laurie Marker. She's considered to be the mother of the cheetah right here in Namibia, the capital, the cheetah capital of the world. She is from the Namibia Cheetah Conservation Fund. Good morning, Dr. Marker. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Great. How are you today?
Doing very well. I'm joined by my colleague, John Colin Namene, Doctor. So just to shoot from the hip there, we continue to hear more sad news coming from India concerning our cheetahs there. The question is, why are the cheetahs dying?
Well, I don't think that it's, cheetahs die. Just to give you an example, I'm picking some cubs up today where the cheetah died and there's cubs. So, cheetahs die. That's number one. There's very few animals that we're dealing with. That's number two. And the program is new, and it's going to take a lot of time. Cub deaths are very, very common. So that's not something to be concerned about. And the Indian media is more hyped than any media that I've ever heard. So I'm just hoping that Namibia media can get things calm and get the answers right.
Indeed. And Dr. Al Jazeera has so far reported that the cubs appeared last week they appeared weak rather on Thursday afternoon, which is a day when the temperatures spiked to about 47 degrees Celsius, and authorities, of course, then intervened to help the cats. But moving forward for the rest of the other cheetahs, are there perhaps hopes that the Namibian cheetahs can survive in the Indian ecosystem? At this point, it seems that they're quite vulnerable.
Well, no, they're all doing well, actually. So from the perspective of a reintroduction, so far everything's actually going quite well. So we've lost one of our Namibian cats, and that was also, due to, health issues. But beyond that, we've got cats out in the wild. They're learning their area out there. It's a whole different area. They're hunting very successfully with the prey base that is available. So all in all, we're actually quite pleased with how things are going.
That's all right. We know, Doctor, that you are the foremost expert right here in Namibia as far as the cheetah is concerned, responsible there for the Cheetah Conservation Fund. You actually globetrot taking care of this spotted cat. Are the Indian authorities in touch with you? Do they work in sync with the Cheetah Conservation Fund in their effort to try to make sure that their experiment becomes successful?
Yes, we're actually in contact regularly, often several times a day. And we've had staff there since we took the cheetahs in September. And so we've had a revolving group of our professional staff members who have been there helping work together with the Indian government and their staff. They're veterinarians, and so we've had a great deal of collaboration working with them and helping them learn more and more as fast as they can about working with cheetahs.
And Doctor, just from the information that you have, how well prepared was the Indian government just in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resources needed to make sure that these cheetahs can withstand the ecosystem that is India?
Well, I think that for what they had, they did well. We had the holding areas ready to go for them and the quarantine areas and then the reintroduction pens. And so everything was set up. They've got, staffing and vehicles and veterinarians. So they've actually resourced this very well.
That's right. You say there that the Indian media is very much hyped about this particular matter. We know for sure that when we jetted those cheetahs to India, there were voices in India that were actually opposed to this, saying that they won't survive here. Why do you think, or is there an agenda, or was there an agenda that India should not have gotten these cheetahs in the first place?
Well, I think that there's always going to be agendas and naysayers. So I think that that's definitely something that we were all prepared for. Of course, if you don't try, you won't ever know. And so saying no without trying isn't going to help. The animals have lived there for a millennium before. They went extinct 70 years ago. So there's no reason why they can't be reintroduced. So again, adapting to the area, they've done very well. They're hunting well. The habitat looks very similar to much of the areas that we have here or in southern Africa. So I guess I would just say that there's going to be constantly people who are going to say, you should have done this or you should have done that or you shouldn't have done anything. So you just have to plug along with everything and listen to those that might be worthwhile to listen to and others to set aside. As far as an alternative reasoning, I think one of the counter issues was that the reserve that the cheetahs were put into had been set aside for the gyr lions. And the gyr lions have not been able to be moved up into this reserve and still won't, because one of the states where they're living won't move the animals. And so this is not a problem for the cheetahs. It's actually a government problem that they have to deal with themselves. So that really had nothing to do really with the movement of the cheetahs.
7:37 is the time on the clock. We're in conversation with Dr. Laurie Marker this morning from the Namibia Cheetah Conservation Fund. Al Jazeera broke news recently that 3 of the 4 cubs born to a Namibian cheetah translocated to India last year have died during the past week as a heat wave sent temperatures soaring in the region where the animals are kept. Now, Dr. Marker, of course, in light of the naysayers, was also taken into consideration that, these are deaths that nobody wanted, of course, and of course the other losses that we noted last year. Do you think there should be any readjustment perhaps to the relocation program or any changes made, or are you satisfied with, like you said, the adaptation of our cheetahs right there in India?
Well, yeah, the cheetahs are doing fine. And anytime there is something that happens, or we're constantly readapting the program as it goes along. So monitoring the animals, finding out what's going on, is all everything is an adapted management. So there's nothing set in stone. As I said, we're active there on a regular basis, working very closely with the Indian government and their officials. So I'm not concerned on that. It is really a numbers game. And as we said, this is going to be a long-term program. Cubs in the wild, oftentimes you see up to 90% infant mortality rate. And so we know that, everyone loves cubs, but on the other hand, they are the most vulnerable to anything that happens out into the wild. So we are, again, one of the cubs is doing great, and it's going to be reintroduced to its mother very soon. And so with that, adaptation, I think, is the right way forward. And it's going to take a long time to actually see a successful program. So we're not talking that this is going to be successful with these 20 animals. I mean, that's the problem, I think, that when you get the first few animals, everything is so tied around them. And obviously the Indian Prime Minister is very, very involved in all of this as well. And from that top down, the scrutiny that's going on with, every step that these cats take will probably reduce as we get more animals in and the populations continue to grow and move. And then I think 1 loss, 2 losses here and there are not going to be as major of a issue as we see right now when you have just begun a program. So, of course, there is a lot of global scrutiny, but I think I want to reassure everybody that the best is being done for the animals. The staff is very, very keen, and there is a lot of communication going on a regular basis to make sure that the program is successful, because it is the first largest global reintroduction of a large carnivore that's ever occurred. And from this, we are going to be looking at more of these kinds of relocations as well in the future. And it's not just for cheetahs, but for many of the other large carnivores where habitats being lost and potential new habitats can start becoming available. So it's a huge global experiment, and we are at the heart of it because Namibia is the cheetah capital of the world. And with that, we do want to make sure that we maintain and keep all of our cheetahs in this country healthy and well as well. And I'd really like to stress that our population is is not as safe as we would like to think it is. The numbers are not as high as we would like to think they are. And I continue to ask all Namibians to please take care of our wildlife populations and our cheetah population, because this is a place where cheetahs are living, and they are a global treasure. And I'm asking everyone to assist us with helping make sure that they're not off taking too many cheetahs, and they're protecting their livestock so that they don't have to kill cheetahs for killing livestock as well. So we have a lot of management programs that we promote here at the Cheetah Conservation Fund to try to help farmers so that they can live in harmony with the cheetah. And many of these programs have gone global, actually, to many of the countries where cheetahs are living throughout Africa. And also, many of our programs are now in effect around the Kuno Park in India as well.
And just on that point specifically, Doctor, you did say there is constant communication between yourselves and the Indian government. There is assistance that you're providing the Indian government in terms of, making sure that there is preservation and that reproduction and reintroduction is done in a manner that can preserve the cheetahs. But what does that actually entail? Is this just communication, or are you assisting in any other way?
Well, we have staff on the ground there constantly. And so we've had, since we took the animals, there were multiple of us there, and I've been there several times, but I've had staff there continually working together with the rangers and the veterinarians, constantly keeping an eye on and working together on these animals. Now, as far as the communication with the communities around, I think it's also interesting to note that India as a culture is actually gentle, and they don't kill animals indiscriminately like we oftentimes do. And so they've learned a lot more about how to live in harmony with nature through the way they practice their livestock management. For instance, they've got elephants there as well, so how to protect their crops. So there's a lot, too, to understand that this culture is actually in harmony quite a bit with nature, and we could learn a lot about that, too, because we, too, live in harmony with nature. And so I think that that's also the benefit of the cheetahs going to India and living there.
That's right, 7:43, 7:44 a.m. rather, the time right here on Breakfast in the Desert. That's our conversation with Dr. Laurie Marker, the mother of the cheetah, foremost, and our Namibian expert right here as far as the spotted cat there is concerned. Dr. Marker, for your time, we thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And do please come and visit us here at the Cheetah Conservation Fund. We're outside of Ochivarongo, and you can learn a lot about the cheetahs and how to live in harmony with them if you're especially a farmer or you want to learn more about conservation. So thank you very much for your questions, and have a good day.
That's all right, Doctor. Have a productive day as well. All right, that's the conversation there. Remember 2022 when 8 cheetahs, 5 of which were male, were flown from Windhoek, Namibia to Gwalio, followed by a helicopter ride to the grasslands of Kuno Paupo National Park. And the cheetahs were brought in wooden crates and were released in a specially designed enclosure where they were to live for a month and begin a lifetime of acclimatization to Indian prey and forest conditions. And Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, in a televised address said it could be months before ordinary citizens could visit the Kuno Park to spot the animals, and said they've now come as guests and it will take some time before they can be used to living in India. And that's what you're getting there, CJ. Very interesting conversation.
Interesting stuff there, but I think for people that might not, know the intricacies